Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki, and I'm an Ascension mentor. Today, we are going to do a personal dive into what it's really like to be a spiritual entrepreneur and some of the things I'm learning, especially on a soul level, through this process. And also the things that have really shifted for me. So, I have been an entrepreneur for the last 5 years. I left corporate in 2019 and I started in fitness apparel. And I worked my way through a lot of different programs. Gosh, I did um, personal training, real estate, affiliate marketing, coaching, healing. And now I almost did business coaching. And now I'm in the ascension space, which is still in the spiritual field. Um, but what I've learned is there has been a big shift that has happened stepping into the ascension space. And the ascension space is all about New Earth. And the core foundations of New Earth is heart-based. And what has been coming through in my channel, especially as I integrate more and more aspects of my multidimensional self with my soul aspects with Pleiades and all of these beautiful galactic beings, I'm starting to realize that my ego was taking the front seat and it was still like it still had a part in how I was doing business and it was still rooted in the old paradigm. So today I want to dive into what was not working, what I guess like my strategy is now and how this is correlating with what is coming through with New Earth businesses. First and foremost, let's do a little background recap of where I was in my business. So I really started off with taking a lot of programs that promoted a more financial and profit-based experience. So it was like learn the skill set to be a profitable coach, which is like marketing and niching and messaging and all those things. Fantastic. They taught you a strategy, they taught a blueprint. Then it went into like make $10,000 a month doing X, Y, and Z, or make seven figures doing X, Y, and Z. And I really had this like grandiose idea of like what I wanted my business to be, or it was just a feeling. Like I was really attuned to the feeling and the frequency of being like this big time person. And I know now that it wasn't 100% like ego. I know that because it was the frequency that I felt that I desired, but my ego mind could only apply it to what I knew existed in the paradigm that I my awareness was in, right? In the consciousness that my awareness was in. So, despite being in pursuit of having all these experiences from an ego perspective, I still elevated my frequency. And so that in itself created disruption in my business and my external reality to shift me to where I needed to be. And that is why you'll notice that my personal journey went from like selling clothes, which I didn't really have an attachment to because I didn't feel the emotional fulfillment from, to doing real estate and realizing it's the same thing. Like there's no emotional fulfillment in that. It doesn't fuel my soul purpose. And it moved me closer and closer into my true role, which was in the ascension space. But what happened in my business was I almost had this identity. I would say I did have an identity crisis. It wasn't an almost identity crisis. It was like a full-on identity crisis to the point where it was like I didn't even know what I was here to do anymore. Um, and that makes sense because it was never fully rooted in the soul of who I am. It was each level got me closer, but it was always built on a foundation that would collapse at some point, right? And so I kept going and I kept doing the inner work. And the more I did, the more I got released, and then the more confused I was. Um, but I remember that when you are in the space of confusion where everything is falling apart, that there's literally nothing you can grab onto. The only thing you can do is to go back within and connect with your soul, right? And that's the whole purpose is soul alignment, is to find the space to connect back with your soul. And I did. And so I listened to the next guidance that I was given. And it's incredibly humbling now that I look back because I realized that I had such tunnel vision. Like my inner wiring is definitely wired to feel safe. And I didn't know I had this, but I've always like kept putting myself in a box and I kept putting structures in my business and I kept learning structures, but the structures didn't contain anything. The structures just built more walls because I wasn't allowing myself to actually let the structures go so that I can find who it is that I am and what it is that I'm here to do. So, of course, like when I started getting intuitive guidance to go into art, um, I was like, wow, fantastic. Let me put structures around that. And so I started building my website around being an artist um and the funny thing is like I haven't done art in a long time. Like art was a childhood dream that like my mom said was unrealistic. And so I never allowed myself to pursue art as a career. I never allowed myself to make money from art. Um, and when I look back, I realized that I had a lot of friends who were very creative and they were all drawn to me. And I had no idea why. I was like, oh, like, I love that you do art, not realizing because that identity was just not something that I accepted for myself. Not realizing that, like, oh, like, I am a creative person too, and that art was an avenue for me. So that came back online, and that really cracked open the true essence of my soul. And the journey actually led me back to my inner child to do more inner child work because I felt such resistance as an artist. And because art was so deeply tied to vulnerability, to what that means for me, and even the right, like that perceived insecurity of letting everything else that I've used to define myself crumble and fall away. So my guides were like, oh, okay, like you're gonna do art now. And I was doing crystal art, and I have an example here. So I was shown these beautiful crystal pieces and I made them, and they're infused with activations. But I did that for like a month, and then my journey like led me to do an art healing program, and it was really just birthed from my personal experience of what I was going through. And for me, I was like, oh, like art was helping ground the nervous system and, all of these things. It did help with so many things, but really what it led to was deeper inner child healing around being seen, being heard, and your self-expression, because all of those things are tied to who you are. Those things are tied to the core essence of the child that was joyful, playful, creative. And if only your inner child had a loving environment, would have been able to thrive and become that version of you, right? And so I realized, I've been building a business that wasn't 100% me. I was like still me trying to release stuff and build stuff from the things I was learning in spirituality in the spiritual field, but I was so disconnected from the true essence, which is my inner child, that emotional core, the heart of who I am. So then, one thing led to the next thing, and I kept thinking, oh my God, like multidimensionality. They were giving me downloads about, being an activator. And I still didn't know at the time what an activator is or was, right? I just knew during sessions that I wasn't exactly doing healing for people. Because I was like, what's the point of taking them to a multidimensional planet? Like, I don't get it. Um, but being in the experience and continuing to support clients through the experience of multidimensional integration and then learning about it and fully embodying it, I realized it is a very important piece of the puzzle. It's just a piece of the puzzle, right? And so it was about bringing this wholeness to the vision by integrating the inner child as well. So then I moved into a phase where I got guidance to create an academy. And this is something that now I talk about as divine will. Divine will is what is birthed through service, and service can only come when you are overflowing and you are already in alignment with yourself. So I had to take close to like 8 months. I mean, it's still ongoing. So Lord knows if it's going to take a year or 2 years or however long it's going to take for me to rediscover who it is that I really am, while simultaneously using my personal healing and activation journey to build my platform, to build the Creator Academy. And so this is why I'm actually here speaking on YouTube, because for a long time, I wanted to speak. I just didn't feel the energy behind it. Um, and now looking back, it's because I was still going through my personal transformation journey, and I didn't heal, like I didn't really go deeper into the layers of healing the fears behind being seen and being heard. And they were such a core emotional wound that, sharing my voice was petrifying. Like sharing my voice almost had this invisible barrier, and I couldn't do it. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't do it. Um, that goes to all of this to say everything unfolded in divine timing. So I feel like even if I were to have worked on healing my throat years ago, I don't think it would have made a difference. It would have, like, I have been healing, being a fear, being seen, being heard, money wounds, and all of those things way back when. And they helped elevate me to the next level. And they helped elevate me to the next level. And then this year, when it was like, all right, I really want to expand my business. And when I set that intention, it was like, oh, okay, so you really want to expand and step into what you're here to do. We need to get rid of everything that is not you. And you have to be so centered and so anchored into your heart, in your vision. And one of the things that left me completely was my willpower. I went through this phase of not being motivated to do anything. And some days that was really scary because I was like, I had all this drive, I had all this like ambition, and I basically pushed myself for the last 4 years, really. Um, it was a combination of inner guidance and also like ego-driven willpower to push through and get things done. And so this year, when it was like the dissolving of the identity happened, I lost all willpower that was attached to hustling for my worth. I lost all willpower that was attached to like personal, egoic gain. And I was forced to really sit in the discomfort of the silence and trust that the divine has my back and trust that what really came through in my essence is now divine will and no longer personal will. Everything that is being brought forth is literally divine will moving me to share these experiences. So, all of that, okay, all of that. We are now going to talk about prosperity and what I believe in prosperity now. So, my idea of prosperity, rooted in the old paradigm, was very much underlying scarcity. Scarcity, um, greed, fear, and none of those things were intentional. I had every intention to be in my heart and to be of service. But the program that was like playing out in my whole life was that, money was more important than me. And so I felt like, well, if I had money, then I would finally be important. So money was tied to my worth. And so I strived to make money. And so my business became more of a money first versus people first, right? Heart led first. And it was very confusing and it was very conflicting because of that old programming continuously playing out. Um, and it was this year that I had met some of the most beautiful soul friends who were also intuitive. So they were able to see my true path. And every time I would veer off my path because I would be like, well, like scarcity would kick in. And I said, I need to launch a high level program because I need money. And that was the wrong way of approaching it. So if you're going through this process and you realize, like, okay, I'm not generating any income in my business, are you fully heart-centered? And have you done the inner work to release the energetic confusion that's in your field? Because it really is energy that can create all this chaos and block your financial abundance. And that is one of those things that I've learned over time, that it's not just an energy thing that you work on. It's not. It is this alignment of, are you in alignment with your heart? Like, are you really doing the thing that you want to do? Because many people can be selling something that they were taught from a program that is not what they actually want to do, right? They just think that they have to say it a certain way, that you have to sell it a certain way, that you have to launch it a certain way in order to be successful. And that is not necessarily what your soul or your heart wants. Then we have to look at your like emotional and nervous system alignment. Are you still carrying trauma and fears and unworthiness wounds, right? Or fears of being seen um, in your physical vessel? Because that can actually create resistance to fully stepping into what you want to do. And then there's the identity, right? Do you truly identify with what it is that you're sharing? And that was my biggest struggle, was that I didn't actually know who I was. I never had the opportunity to explore my authentic self. And I was building on a lot of foundations of what I thought I should be, but I never truly embodied and embraced who I am. And so, those are some of those things to look at. It's not just let me sit here and clear your energy. Sometimes it takes somebody to ask you these questions. What is it that you want, right? when we release all these programs, like what is your heart telling you that you want? And for me, during that time, I realized I didn't actually want what I thought I wanted. You know what my heart said? My heart said, I want family. And that was very surprising to me, even though um, for my whole life as a child, all I wanted was my mom and dad, right, to stop working and to start paying attention to like fulfill my emotional needs. So, wouldn't that be resonant with my path in the future that I'm still playing out um, their patterns of putting money first and not actually putting the heart first? So it's like, wow, breaking that paradigm. What I really want, what my soul says it wants, is I want to feel emotional fulfillment first. And in order to fill my own cup, then I can be of service and actually pour into others. Oh, wow. That was a lot that came through. So, okay. So, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is how your soul will guide you into what you're here to create and to not pre, I would say to not put very strict structures around your work if you haven't figured out what it is that you're passionate about. If you are still on this journey of self-discovery and healing and you want to be of service, let yourself explore what it is that you truly want to share because it is most often that it is through your own personal journey that you can help others. If you haven't moved through it yourself, it is very difficult to help others, right? Because it's misguided. And that is my experience as well, is now that I'm moving through this, I'm starting to notice that spirit is giving me guidance to create certain things. And I don't 100% know if those structures are final. All I know is like, okay, you're telling me I need to create an academy, which I did. I created an academy, and I'll talk about that. You're telling me I need to create an academy. And so I sat here and I channeled on it and I visualized it and I felt the energy of it. And then I said, okay, now I'm going to bring that through into 3D. What is it that I need? And well, I needed a platform, right, to host this on. Um, I needed a invitation, a way to invite people into this. And so it was kind of like working with foundations all over again. And so this is truly, and what I want to say is there's no right or wrong because my what is it called in human design? My type is a manifesting generator. So the way that I shared my story is very in alignment with manifesting generator energy. Um, for us, for the manifesting generators, we are really amazing at multitasking, and we tend to jump to the finish line and then realize that we missed a bunch of steps. And then we have to go back and fill in those steps. So the way that my story played out was I like 0 to 100. I just decided one day that my job was not for me. I quit my 9 to 5 and I started a business like within a month. I did no planning. I did nothing. I did nothing. I was just like, well, I left my job. So what kind of business do I want to create? And I literally went ahead. I bought the domain. I bought the website. I reached out to manufacturers. I created my own logo. It was insane. I even blew my mind that I was capable of doing that. And then what happened? I realized that having that kind of business was not fulfilling to me. So then I went, and I kept searching. And then through that searching, I realized, oh, I actually don't know how to market. I actually don't know how to bring clients into my business. So I went and studied the structures and the strategies. And then through the strategies, I realized I actually don't know what I want to offer. So then I had to learn the modalities in which I could offer something, right? It's so backwards and it's so funny now that I'm telling the story. I'm like, I just built a business out of thin air and then I realized I had nothing to offer. So now I'm like on this discovery journey of figuring out, well, what is it that I want to offer? And I kept pushing to put these structures to my offer only to realize that I couldn't offer what it is that I really want to offer because I needed to do the inner work to become the person who would offer the transformation to the other to my clients, right? And so it became this whole journey of like, well, now I'm in this journey um of surrender, of being in the process. So all of that to say is work on yourself. If I was not how I am, uh, and I am how I am. So for me, moving through this in such a non-linear way allows me to give you how to actually get there the fastest way, but it still might not be your way. So take it as a a blueprint, right? But take what resonates for you and then let your soul guide you through the process because your soul might make a few detours. But the blueprint that I have, if it were a perfect world and if our soul lived a linear process, it would be heal yourself and figure out who you are, right? And once you figure out who you are, then work on building the skill sets. So the skills such as, do you want to be a healer, a channeler? What are the skills? And in the spiritual field, you might not need to learn those things. You're just here to remember your spiritual gifts. And then you decide, okay, this is who I am. You have a very solid core of who you are. This is a good skill set that you want to be of service and to offer the world, and that people, right, that can help people. Now it's like, okay, now I can put it in a structure. Okay. And you build the structure for it. But knowing yourself is most important because it's going to affect how you offer the thing that you offer, how you create the structure for it. Because you know what happened for me this year? I realized that all these structures that I wanted to implement actually didn't work for me because I had this epiphany that I'm actually a very creative soul. And being a creative soul means my energy is needs space to flow. And so my structure is not a it's not a 9 to 5, it's not even consistent day to day. It's just like I know I have to make a certain amount of content this week. So whenever I'm feeling it this week, I will sit down and make the content. Um, oh, I just got an idea because I got an idea out of the blue. Now I'm gonna go and put some structure to it. But it's not like, well, Wednesday I'm gonna like have an epiphany and a download and I'm gonna put that out there. It's not how my energy works as a creative person. So that's why knowing yourself is the first step, right? But again, we are non-linear, right? We are multidimensional. Sometimes you walking through building your business or building the prosperity in your life is how you will discover more of yourself. And that was the case for me. It was me going through it firsthand that I learned the lessons, and I had to learn it through experimentation. right? And sometimes it was hard and challenging because I didn't have someone telling me, oh, yes, you're supposed to fail. I, like, I like a part of me feels like I don't want to use the word fail, but it's almost like that experience taught you something, but it was never meant to work out because that's not actually where I was meant to be. And if someone were to tell me that straight up, I don't think I would have wanted to go through the experience because I wouldn't have wanted to quote unquote waste my time, right? But it was necessary. Just like a baby learning how to walk, they have to crawl first. And then when they stand up, they will tumble and they will fall and they will get back up. And if someone were to say, you're going to tumble and you're going to fall, but you're going to eventually get back up and you're going to make it, I think that is more encouraging. So that is my message to you. You're going to tumble, you're going to fall. It's part of the process, it's part of growth, but you will find your way. You just have to listen to how your soul wants to guide you. So, all of that to say, I hope that truly has supported you. I want to introduce you to the Creator Academy. The Creator Academy is a magic and mystery school for star seeds, visionaries, and creatives. And in the Academy, we focus on some of the core components, one of which is the inner child and really building the foundations for the inner child to thrive, right? This is the core essence of who you are. We teach, we do healing, we do activation. So we do all the energy work to help elevate your consciousness. But we also have master classes and teachings to help you be more embodied in your self mastery. And the best part is the community because this journey, I find that spirituality is so hard and serious. Like I was a person who took spirituality so seriously. And then I realized that the reason why everything is so hard is because I made it so serious. It is meant to be fun. So the whole academy is like this magic Hogwarts Disney vibe, and you really tap into the magic of who you are. And in this community, we are all inner children playing with each other. So those are what community days are. You get to practice, you get to network, you get to do what I call imaginative play, which is we really get to indulge the inner child in the energy of fun and play and joy. So, yeah, if that's interesting to you, I invite you to check out the link. Make sure you sign up to my newsletter through my free gift. Get the free gift, get your chakras activated and aligned so that you can expand, okay, even faster and be who you're meant to be. So, thank you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you in my next episode.